Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, so welcome to the first workshop of ComNet. I am Pranav and coordinator of ComNet along with Iga Jatin. Uh, so today we have divided the workshop into three parts. First part is installation. So I will be basically telling you the steps that you must go through for installation. The basic software that we will be using for this event would be MATLAB. Uh, some computers which is only available for Windows. So for other computers like Mac and Linux, you can use Octave. So Octave is like a basic version of MATLAB, but it is kind of difficult to code. So preferable platform is MATLAB. The second part would be introduction to digital communication. In that, we will uh, brief you through the basic concepts of digital communication. And the third part is MATLAB's hands-on. So the installation that we do in the first part, we can together work on hands-on in the end. So I will show you the so there is these are the instructions that were shared to you before. So for Linux user, you can simply enter these three commands. By doing that, only Octave will be installed in your computer, and you can simply run Octave. For Windows, it is a .exe file. So by clicking on this link, from here you can download the exe file. And for Mac OS, the process is has been told on the Octave wiki page. So it also consists of a few commands, and you can simply go through it. For Windows, there is the another option for MATLAB. So uh, it has two DVDs. So you have to download it first from this link. Then the crack consists of the license and some files that you have to put after installation. So the first step is to download them, and ensure that the internet is disconnected before you proceed with the installation. The second step is to mount the first DVD. Then in the first DVD you can run the setup.exe file. It will be available as in this PC. It will be available there. So after doing that, just use file installation key, select this option, do accept, next. Then I have a file installation key. This will be provided in the crack folder. There in the readme file, you will find this file installation key. By entering this, it will proceed with the installation. So you have to do next from here. So then after it reaches 65%, uh, it will basically ask you to insert the second disk. So basically you have to do the same procedure again, mount the second disk, and it will simply continue with, and press next on that MATLAB portal. So it will simply continue with the installation. Uh, so it will be basically copied to C program files MATLAB. So before starting, going further, there are a few steps. Uh, First is like keep this license standalone dot like file ready in the crack folder. Then the second thing is there are a few files in the crack folder that you have to copy. So you have to copy these files to the C program files MATLAB before running the installation. Basically, this is a big procedure because MATLAB is very complex. It is a big software, so I will like give you a glimpse of it also. So in for Octave, the procedure is simple. You have to download the .exe file, like I have downloaded it, and open it. So like then do next, 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 and you will reach at this page. So after doing finish, and so this is basically doing next, 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 that only. Okay. So this is Octave. And this is right. So like this is Octave and this is MATLAB. So the basic difference between them is like you can see that Octave has command window, this workspace, file browser, command history, and MATLAB has command window, workspace, this current folder, that is file browser, and so they are almost same. So the difference between them is, so this is so this is something called a live script. So MATLAB contains a live script that helps you write something on the top and at the same time code below it. So this eases a lot of things, whereas Octave has only this command window function, and you can from here call anything in the workspace. So like Octave is very basic version. So for this workshop, you can use both MATLAB or Octave. In future, like for solving the PS, the problem statement will get very complex. So I would prefer that you use MATLAB if you have Windows, but you can use Octave also. So I would like that you start installing, like you if you have not installed, then you can start downloading the Octave, and by the end we reach the hands-on part, you can continue with the hands-on. Now Iga Jatin will continue from here. Also, if you have any doubts or something, you can post them in the chat, or you can also say, if you can also speak out. Uh, Also, if you face any problems during installation, we will discuss them before starting on with the hands-on part.
Yeah, I would this is Jatin. Take 2 minutes of time and just if you want to install download anything, just go with the process. I'll start this presentation other 2 minutes. So you keep downloading that stuff in the background so that by the end of this workshop, when we are in the hands-on experience, you can try it parallelly. Okay. So in the next 2 minutes, I'll start this workshop. So if you have anything to download, please start downloading this stuff.
So like in the meantime, I will tell you like what will be the things, like we will have 4 workshops for ComNet, and then there would be one PS1 and PS2, and like there would be one quiz also before the PS. So basically, these 3 would basically decide who's the winner finally in the end. So Neeraj has asked, will we be using this software again anywhere in 4 year of BTech? So yes, in third year, first sem, we use MATLAB for our digital communication lab, and also you might use, if you want to test some algorithms or something, you definitely will go through MATLAB. Or like if you use the N2N course on Coursera. So that too, there he teaches basically he tells you to install Octave because he needs only Octave part. So there too you can use MATLAB.
Yeah. So I'll start the presentation of the second part. So yeah, hello guys. So this ComNet is all about communication, right? So what do we communicate is signal. So what is signal is the first question that comes up. So signal is nothing but it's a physical quantity which contains some information, and signal this signal is a function of one or more independent variables. So those variables are time, space, distance, etc., etc. So sorry. So this signal, what does this signal have, or what does this signal possess? So this signal is generally represented by the following equation with amplitude, frequency, and phase difference. So what are the types of signals? So we have many types of different signals, like one is periodic and aperiodic. So what is periodic signals? So these are the signals which have a pattern and they repeat after a fixed time interval. So what are aperiodic? Aperiodic are those signals that doesn't repeat. So they are completely random in nature. Example, the voice or the speech, something like that. What are analog signals and digital signals? So analog signals are those which have continuous amplitude along with the time, whereas digital signals are those with a discrete amplitude and has discontinuous values. So what are continuous signals? So continuous signals are those where you find signal at every instant of time. You have a value given at every instant of time. So that signal is called as continuous. Discrete are quite opposite to it. So you find signals at certain point of certain instant of time rather than at all instants of time. So okay, let me put all this thing in a graphical part. So as you see in the top left graph, what you see is continuous time and continuous amplitude signal. So through the x-axis, like what we put is time. So throughout the time instance, you find some value going, and the values are continuous. They do not break. So that signal, that kind of signal is known as continuous signal and continuous amplitude. Okay. So the below one is continuous but has discrete amplitudes. So coming to the next discrete time signal, where you see signals breaking where you see signals at particular point of time, and you don't see, for example, you see at 0.04 you see signals popping up, like you see gaps, right? So that is discrete time and continuous amplitude. And discrete time and discrete amplitude is where you have discrete like you have given amplitude and you have no value at a certain point, certain instant of time. So bandwidth. Bandwidth is something you hear a lot in your daily life. From Wi-Fi you talk about speed of your internet through bandwidth, right? So okay, what does this bandwidth mean? What does that define? So bandwidth is a range of frequencies, okay, within a given band. In particular, that is used to transmit this particular signal what we talked about. So okay, bandwidth of signals. It's in the communication signal. This message signal we are transmitting could be an audio, video, or some data like the image and etc. Right? Let me talk some fun facts. Like okay, in 2003, the number of mobile users in India were just 2.2 crore, but now present at in 2021, now the number of mobile users has increased to 118 crores. See, you see this drastic change, right? So the number of users has increased a lot by very big number. So these mobile phones you use daily, uses two technologies based on different parts of radio spectrum. So one is GSM and one is CDMA. As the number of mobile phone increased, number of users have increased, the services we have like Airtel, BSNL, and many more like Geo. So these services also have been changing throughout the time. There new services were coming up, many were falling down. Okay, so now in 2003 or 1900s, when 1G was there, so they were allotted very few frequencies, very few bandwidths for communication. But now, as the mobile users have has increased, so the country's government is now putting in auction for the frequencies, right? So, as per 2021 auction, half of the telecom spectrum was sold to Reliance Jio at a huge amount of 57,000 crores. Okay, so this Reliance Jio has emerged the highest bidder in the 4G telecom spectrum auction last year, beating like whatever you know, Airtel, Vodafone Idea, everything. So now literally Jio is the king in the telecom spectrum in India. As you know, as you hear every day, like 4G, 3G, 2G, everything. So what are those generations? Okay. So when you talk about 1G, so 1G is like is the first generation for the telecommunication. So in that era, the signal what was used to communicate was analog signal. Okay, and which was the information was just continuous signal like sound waves were transferred, nothing else. But in the 2G part, when it was upgraded, now people started sending text messages. So it was allowed, like we introduced digital signals. So now text messages and downloading some ringtones and stuff started. So in 1G, the bandwidth, the frequency they used was around 900 megahertz. Whereas in 2G, it increased to 1800 megahertz. While coming to the 3G part, now in 3G, we started making video calls, all that stuff. We started playing video games, high resolution has increased. So it indirectly, the data transfer has increased quite a lot in the 3G. And the bandwidth that was used in the 3G was 2.1 gigahertz. So now whatever you see the radio wave spectrum here, these are the wavelengths or frequencies were allotted for the data transmission. Like in the first you see AM radio, and next comes broadcast, TV broadcast, GPS, then comes satellite. See the first part, the cell phone and GPS and broadcast TV, this radio, this frequency, it can go through buildings, walls. So that is very huge. So next coming to see, good communication is always the bridge for the best, is between confusion and clarity. So we have a good communication, the other receiver from the source hears it clear. So what is coming to the communication part? So communication is a field that deals with the transmission of the data. So whatever signals we have discussed now, sending that signals is communication. Transmission of that signal is communication. We cannot transfer data directly from the source to the receiver. We have a lot of problems doing that. What are those? We'll be discussing now. So sending large quantity of data is always a problem, as the data is transferred, noise is attached to the data. So this noise can interfere with the data and can be the loss of information. Okay, now as you all know, large data uses large and heavy equipment to process. So this processing involves huge electricity. So investing on electricity and large components, and if any mistake happen, like any problem with the equipment, the communication is gone. That's it. The biggest issue overall is the receiver antenna size. Just to transfer an audio signal, we need an antenna with a dimension of 5 kilometers, which is not at all feasible. If you're sending a large amount of data, that's it. So thus we need to process data before any transmission happens. So this processing of data happens like this: source coding, channel coding, and modulation. So what is source coding, by the way? So source coding, it is used to reduce the redundancy, that is unwanted part of the data is removed in the source coding part. This source coding is very useful because this helps the bandwidth effectively. Cutting down the data size helps the bandwidth, because sending a less amount of data through a bandwidth is very easy. See, this source coding also includes compression of digital data. Now this digital data goes into channel coding. Channel coding is nothing but here we provide some noise immunity to the data, so that through this channel, when it goes, if any noise is attached to it, through channel encoding we just remove that other data, or we can find the errors if anything happened to any damage happened to the data through this channel coding and encoding. What is modulation? Modulation is converting the electrical digital signal to a high frequency modulated signal. So this, after this is done, we send it to an antenna, and from source it goes to the receiver and stuff. So let me talk about analog communication, how it happens. So in source we have an information, so that is sent to the modulation directly. From there, that is converted into electrical signal into that other signal. Then it is sent to the channel, from channel to the demodulation part, then back to the receiver again. See, analog communication is simply but nothing but the radio frequencies and the speeches, voice calls, all that stuff. Now the digital communication. So let's take an example, some message like ABCA is the information we have from the source. Now we need to send this to the receiver. So what happens is, this ABCA is sent into source encoding. In source encoding, as we have discussed above, what happens is compressing of the data and changing the data into zeros and ones. See, A is a character, it takes 1 byte, whereas int doesn't take that much amount of data. So that A is converted into 00, B as 01, C as 10, and A as 100. So this data is compressed here in source encoding. So this data now is sent into channel encoding. So in channel encoding, as we discussed, we are introducing some data to it, so that we can understand if there is any data loss by the end when it is received by the receiver. So now this same data 00 is now attached with 001 and 01 and 0, 100 and 001. Now from this channel encoding, this data is sent into modulation. Now here this data is now sent as a signal through the channel to the demodulation part. So here this signal is attached with some noise. So this noise is removed here in the demodulation and checked, and after, when it goes into channel decoding, now that data is checked if there is any data loss. Like if you say you got the same data 001, 10, 010, and 111, 001, it's fine. But what if there is any error, like you get, instead of 001 you get 000? So this byte has an error. So there is an error while receiving the code. There is an extra noise added to it. So you can get an alert message like the data transferred is not complete, or it has an error. So this channel coding helps us finding errors in the data transformation. So now that 00 code, binary code, is now sent into source decoding, where that binary code is turned into message like ABCA again and sent to the receiver. So this is all digital communication, how digital communication happen. So why do we talk about digital? Why I'm elevating digital a lot? So before we know about why we talk about digital, let's talk about analog. So analog signals is what you see all around you. It's like speech, some temperature, sound, pressure, everything uses analog interfaces, okay, to transmit. whereas digital is just an imaginary signal. Okay, now the bandwidth. Analog bandwidths are low, while the bandwidth of the digitals are too high. So now digital signals has a higher bandwidth and analog signals have a lower bandwidth. In transmission, analog signals are suited for audio and video transmission, while digital are for computing and stuff. Analog equipment are little low cost and is portable, whereas the digital are a little higher because the computation part happens and all the stuff. We have a huge equipment for that. And digital equipment, digital communication has a higher quality as we get precision in the data. So now you see analog signals and digital signals, right? What are the difference? Like what is that? So analog signals are real values, whereas digital signals aren't. So they are real, but they are made. Okay. So let me tell you, you have a watch example, analog watch and digital watch. Analog watch might not give you the precision in the data. Like you just analyze, okay, now the minute hand moved by this angle. So it's now some time like 15, 20. But in digital, you see it to yourself like, okay, now it's 12:20. You have the precision in it. So digital are a little further, like you have the upper hand there. So analog instruments has a scale, as I've told. So if you take the example of a watch, you have a scale for it. So the scale here is the angle. So you compare the time with an angle and just identify it. So chance of getting errors there are very high. Observational errors we have. So whereas in digital instruments, you find very less because it has to be predetermined by yourself while giving an input. So that's when you find any errors in the digital instruments, right? Here, like in the transition, quality is lost because of the noise, obviously, and there is a chance of corruption of data from the external sources, that is noises or dropping down something. So, okay, coming to the storage part, in the analog signal, as we have discussed, there are infinite number of values because that is continuous. So while you have infinite number of values, you have the precision, but storing that infinite number of values is difficult because you need infinite memory. So this is the problem with analog signals. So now taking noise immunity part, see the left side is a sinusoidal wave. That is the analog signal and the noise you have, and the right side we have digital signal. So in an analog signal, in analog signal we have continuous values, various values. So adding noise to it, what happens is after it goes to a channel and when it comes to decoding part, the problem here is removing that noise. We cannot identify what actual noise is, what is the data, because it has all number of values. It can take any number of values, analog signal. Whereas you can distinguish what is noise and what is signal in the digital signal, because you can at least define, because the signal here is discrete. So that's why digital signals are more immune to noise than analog. So as you know, with great power or great advancement comes a great responsibility to carry on. Digital communication will increase the range because it has higher bandwidth. The range increases, and in the digital communication, we have a better voice quality because we can easily clear noises. You can put up noises for your interest, like if you're transmitting data for a long distance, there is a chance of getting disturbance. So you can add on noises to it. You can do noises reduction, all this in digital part. But that risk you cannot take with analog one. You can deliver more information through digital, as you can send a higher data, like more amount of data through a digital signal. You can the digital signals are portable, they are flexible, and now digital communication is little comfortable to use because it is simple, handy and stuff. This doesn't mean analog is bad, but analog has its own importance, its own significance. but there is a huge there is going to be a huge advancement in the digital communication. So now I would like Pranav to talk about MATLAB and stuff. Yep.
Hello.
Yeah.
So is anyone having any problems? Okay, so sorry. So MATLAB is so
You're right. Sorry. Yeah.
Sir, how can we find the license key?
so it's given in the crack folder that I shared. So uh,
So where is that folder? Can you please tell? Where have you shared it?
after you there's a in the instructions there's a link for crack. It will basically lead you to download a zip folder. So in that uh, after you unzip it, there is a crack. There is the license key. So I will show it to you also. Also, no need to call sir. Uh, so this is the crack MATLAB R2 2018A. So we have to download it this zip. Its link is given in the instructions. After that, we extract it. So this is a license server.lic, a license standalone.lic. So this is the license key that you have to use. Also, like after installing everything, don't start the MATLAB. First, copy this bin folder into the C. I will show you that also. Basically, copy it, then go to C, program files, MATLAB, R20 2018A, and paste it here. So it will combine all the files of the bin. Then to open MATLAB. So in bin, this MATLAB icon. So basically, you have to double click on it to open MATLAB, or you can pin it to your taskbar also. Like I have done it. So you can pin it to this taskbar or add a shortcut to desktop. Also, you can contact anyone, me, Jatin, or your co-coordinators who are Dhruv and Vishal. We'll be sharing their contacts also. So, for if you have any doubts regarding installation. So, so MATLAB basically stands for Matrix Laboratory. So basically, it's built to do complex calculation that involve matrices. So it has more than 4 million users worldwide. Uh, so it has a very good user base, and also if you have any doubts, so you simply search it, and there is support MATLAB. So you usually get your answers there if you have any doubts, or you can read the documentation. We will go through that in a some time. So these are the topics that we will be doing today. Executing a command, workspace in MATLAB, save workspace to a mat file using built-in functions, evenly spaced vectors array, function calls, plot, if else condition, loop, logical array. So these are very basic tools that the code for them is 1 or 2 lines. So these so basically combining all these, you can perform any calculation that you want. So this is the MATLAB screen. There are a few tabs on the top, as you can see: Home, Plots, App, Live Editor, Insert View. So in the Home tab, basically, it's like the file that we see in Word. So we have very basic options here. So there, so basically, one is the importance is open. So by default, when you open MATLAB, it opens in the bin folder. So you have to click on this browse a folder and open your workspace where you will create new files or work on files. The second option that is important for today is live editor. So it has some basic options like new, open, save. Apart from that, there is this run section. So in live editor, the everything is divided into parts. So this is text, then this is code. Like here we can see on the top there are two options, for one is for text and one is for code. So in text we can write anything or insert images. In the code is basically the part that is executed. So apart for running a section, we can run everything section wise, like run section, or we can run everything in a single go by clicking on run. So MATLAB, we usually work on .mlx files. These are the live script extension. Apart from that, there is a .m file. So if you work on Octave, you will be working on .m file. So it looks like this. Execute a command, and basically you simply get to the part where you write the everything. So there's you can't run the code in sections if you work on .m file. Also in LiveScript, the output of each section is shown on the right, whereas in .m file the combined output is shown when you run the file. So let's begin. Uh, so let me basically start with executing a command. So since both are almost same, so I will be working on Octave. MATLAB is same. So everything that we write in Octave in command window can be simply written in the MATLAB also. So first thing is executing a command. So if we simply write x equal to 5, so it executes a command. So the things that happen when we do this, a variable name x is created in the workspace. So the x that we wrote here is stored in the workspace as a variable, as we can see in this workspace over here. And there is this command history. So basically, whatever English that we write, that is a variable, and equal to assigns the value to it. So if I write y equal to x, the value of x is assigned to y. So they both now have the same value. We can see here also. So this is like a workspace. I have added images also. So if you want to see how it looks like in MATLAB, but everything is same. So there is one basic thing. If you write x equal to 5, the output is also displayed below. So if we write x equal to 5, then semicolon, the output is not displayed, but the command is executed. So it is also very useful. And another thing that you might want to use is if you press the arrow key, you can go to the previous commands that we wrote if you want to execute it again. Also, by entering just a variable, for example here y, we can simply get its value printed. You can run the the naming a variable is also a thing. So you can name it any thing starting with the alphanumeric variable, that is starting with letters. Then you can write numbers or underscore. So another
Pranav,
thing.
Pranav, please check the chat.
Yeah, Pranav, can you please show how to open Live Editor in the MATLAB?
Okay. So this is the MATLAB. First, there is this browse for folder. So when we click on it, it opens like which folder we want to use as a workspace. So I click on here, select folder. So then the next step is home, new live script. So when I click on it, a live script is created. So then I have to, I can save it or, write first of all in it. So if I write x equal to 5, then enter y equal to x. Then y equal to 6, y equal to x first of all. So then the next step is going to live editor option and run section. So it will run it and display the output on the right, x equal to 5 and y equal to 5. And two variables are created in the workspace. So if we want to continue writing the code, there is this section break. So it will break the section and we will it will create a new section for the code. To change this into a text, so click on the text and we can write it. So basically, when we run the live editor file, this text part will not be executed. Only the code part will be executed. So change this text block to code. Simply click on code. Uh, so it will make a code section. This really helps if the code length of MATLAB is huge. So basically, the thing that we add as comment that can be added into the text part. It really helps to write a understand the code better. So like this MATLAB tool is built for industry. So they have huge code, so they need to have a good documentation of it. So live editor is very helpful for that. So which version of MATLAB are you using? This MATLAB live editor was started from 2016. If you are following this instruction manually, then you should have an option in home for new live script. You can also unmute yourself and tell.
So on clicking new live script, I'll get those tabs.
You will get untitled.mlx.
I was trying to say that the above where there's home, plots, and apps, I don't have a live editor, insert, and view.
So when you open a live script, then after that you will get those options. If I open this .m file, the options that I get in the top they are different. So each type of file has
Okay, understood.
So the next part is saving and loading the workspace. So these all the variables that we created x and y in the workspace, we sometimes need to store them. For instead of doing all the calculation again, we can simply store these variables for future reference. So the basic command for that is save then the file name .mat. So this saves the variable into the current folder. So like this is the current folder. So basic.mat file is created. So like if I start Octave again and I will do that. I have this basic.mat file and the variables are removed from the workspace. So by writing load basic.mat, I get those variables back in my workspace. So this is very useful tool if the calculations that we have in our algos are very complex. So we can simply execute some part of our code, save those variables. Then after some time, if we want to continue with that, we can continue from that point only. So this was something that you might use. So there are some built-in functions in MATLAB. One is absolute, sine, cos, square root. These are some basic functions. So how we run them is like AB, simply writing it ABS, then whatever variable that you, or let's write minus y. So this command is executed and the answer is returned. So you might see that a new variable answer is created in the workspace. So if you don't specify a variable as output, then it will be assigned to answer. The MATLAB creates this variable by default, so don't use this name, value, make variables. So also, there is like sine. Let's write 2 star 2 pi. So this is like a very small value, 2.4492 into 10 power minus 16. So this is like a very small value. So there is some accuracy that like MATLAB is not fully accurate. So let me write pi. So pi is 3.1416. So MATLAB uses this pi, multiplies it by 2, then calculates its sign. So this comes out to be 2 point this number. So if I write sine 0, then it will be 0. So there is some accuracy involved in this. So I will address that in some time. Let me write square root sqrt minus 6. So as we can see, the answer is imaginary. So this I, if I write I in front of a variable, the MATLAB perceives it as imaginary number. So like I was talking about accuracy. So there is one command, format long and format short. So this is currently format short. So everything that we write uh, is calculated with the precision of 4 digits. So if I write format long, now everything that will be executed will have a precision of 14 digits, I think. So let me now write square root -6. You can see the variable is much accurate as compared to before. Pi. So like the value of pi is much more accurate. Then let me write sine 2 pi. So this is also like much more accurate as compared to before. Also, if we use format long, the processing time will also increase as the amount of calculation will increase. So is anyone, if anyone has any doubt till now?
If everything is all right, please respond with an emoji, a thumbs up emoji. If everything is good.
Hello, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask that in actual, what are we trying to do using this MATLAB?
Like I told that Andrew NG course. So it's just one implementation. So like I will tell you. So that in the Andrew NG course, he simulates neural networks. Neural networks involve a lot of complex calculations that involve matrices. Matrices is basically a 2D, two-dimensional array. The calculations are very complex. So if you write it in a simple language like Python, so you will have to use like for loop, a lot of for loops for it. If let's say the dimensions that you are working on are like 10, so in Python you will have to write for loops, 10 for loops for reaching that final variable. But in MATLAB, you can simply do it. Simply do the calculations without accessing a variable as a single identity. So, in the N2NG course, he simulates the neural networks using MATLAB. MATLAB is basically a language. So in that, if we perform a multiplication, I will get to it. So that multiplication is simply like x multiplied by y. If you have to write it in Python, you have to define the whole matrix multiplication. Or there are libraries for it. You have to use them. So MATLAB is very specific for scientific community to implement big things using a smaller code.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your explanation.
Please don't call us sir or anything like that. Call us Bhaiya, that's fine.
You are saying second year, right? Like you should be used to not calling sir. Online MATLAB is it's paid, so we can't use online MATLAB, and our college does not provide access to it. Our college does provide offline MATLAB 2018, so you already have it. So I don't. Also, MATLAB offers you to use MATLAB 2021 for free for 1 month. So it's not useful for this workshop, but in future, if you explore like more into the scientific aspects of MATLAB, then you will require the latest version, as it has a lot of libraries and various tools included. So continuing, the next thing that we will implement is array. So matrix, like I said, as MATLAB stands for matrix laboratory, so array is basically a matrix of two dimension. That is, it has row and a column. So to write an array in MATLAB, you have to write x equal to square brackets, and within that you have to write the numbers like 1, 2, 3. So this array is created. So this is basically a row array. Uh, so what I mean by row array, that all the elements are in one row. As we can see in the workspace, the dimension is 1 cross 3. So x equal to 1 to 3 makes a row array. So if we want to make a column, another row, like write something in the next row. So we will have to write 1, 2, then semicolon, then 3, 4. Semicolon means a break, so it will break the values and move it to other row. So x equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is everything. Also, like if I try to write x3, so basically what is happening is the first row has 2 columns. Then in the second row, I am specifying only one value. So it will give an array, give an error that the vertical dimensions mismatch. That I am writing the wrong syntax. So there is one terminology that is vector. So vector basically means is something that if we have only a single row or a single column, so that is called a vector. So in MATLAB, we a lot of times we have to make a vector as like a lot of continuous values, you can say. So MATLAB provides you an easy tool to create it. So like if I write y equal to 5, then colon, so this time it is colon 8. So it will assign y values 5 to 8. These are all the values are in a single row, 5, 6, 7, 8. So continuous assignment is given to y from 5 to 8. So in if you have to write this in Python, so you will have to use for you have to use uh, uh, range function in Python. So this is the difference. So next part is how to specify a difference. So here all the values have a difference of 1. So if I want to write values that have a difference of, let's say, uh, 0.1, then 8. So first is first value, difference, then last value. So it will calculate all the values starting from 5 to 8. So these are basically 31 values. So it has created a column vector, row vector, because there is a single row and these are all this column, and it has assigned value to it, which have a difference of 0.1. So we also might like happen if, that we know the first element, last element, and the number of element. So the function is linspace. In that we specify the first element, last element, and the number of elements. So this will also do the same thing, but here we don't have to worry about the difference. So there is one exercise also here. So try that. It will be like you will learn something from it. So there is, like I told, by using this, it makes a row vector. So sometimes we might want a column vector. That is, there are a lot of rows and a single column. So for that, there is a transpose. So x equal to x dash, x that apostrophe. So x equal to x apostrophe. So that basically does the transpose. So transpose is converting a column vector to a row vector. So here it was columns, here it is rows. So the dimension here we can see 31 cross 1. So there are also other functions that create an array. So like rand is a random number. So x equal to rand2. So it will create a array 2 cross 2 array of random numbers between 0 and 1. In this, if I write here format short, so we can see the difference. Like here it is accurate to 2 values, 4 values, and here it is very accurate. So that is the difference. So then we write x equal to rand. These values will be different every time we give them. If I write again rand, it will be different. 2 comma 3, it will create a array of size 2 cross 3. There is one function that you must see, size. So size returns the values, returns the size of the array. So answer is 2, 2, 3. So it is the size of this array. Rows, then column. There are other functions also. There one is like ones. It creates an array of all ones. 2 cross 2, like x cross x array of ones. There is one function I. It creates an identity matrix. These are very useful while coding. An important thing that you must know is indexing. So indexing is getting the value from the array, a specific value from the array. So we have wrote x. There is one command CLC. So CLC stands for clear. So it is used to clear the command window. So now I print x. So x is values, these random values. So if I want to specifically get 0.935697, so I will write x 1, comma 1. So I will get 0.9357. So if I give only one index, let's say x1, then also I will get 0.9357. But what if I give x3? Then I will get 0.334375. So how MATLAB works is that if there is a 2D array and I'm doing single indexing, that is giving only one variable. So it will start from here, then go down, then go to next column, then continue from there. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is also very useful a lot of times. The next thing I would like to show you is if I give x1 comma colon, so it will return all the values which have a first index 1. First index 1 implies row number 1. So we get 0.93. This is also an array, 3 cross 1 array, 1 cross 3 array. 0.93, the first row. There is one thing, like if we want to reference to the last element, let's say. So there is one variable end. So if I give x end, it will return the last element 0.53162. If I want second last, I can write end minus 1. These everything that I'm speaking has been written in the basics.mlx file, so you can refer to that after the end of the workshop also. One thing I would like to add is like you can assign this value also that we are indexing. So z equal to like x and minus 1. So z will get the value of x and minus 1. Or like I can assign this x equal to and minus 1. I assign this to 5. So the value of x and minus 1 changes to 5. So it works both ways. Is anyone facing any issues, or if anyone has any doubt? We are like almost to the end, I would say. So moving on with arithmetic operations. So in an array, we have to perform some operations, like we have to subtract something or add something. So like we have x, CLG, x. Then if we add x plus 2, so it will add 2 to each element of x. So it's simple, like everything is common sense. So if I write z equal to y plus x, so z will get y plus x. It would be element to element. There is one thing that I would show, like you must have seen matrix multiplication in the past. So matrix multiplication, like z equal to 3, 4, star, 10, 20. So this is matrix multiplication. So first array is 1 cross 2, second is 2 cross 1. So the result will be 1 cross 1. This is matrix multiplication, but sometimes we might want to simply multiply element to element. Like I want to multiply 0.935 to 2.935. So I can write dot x dot star y. So this will do element wise multiplication. Also similarly, we have power. So if I want to raise a power to a matrix, so power implies multiplying the same matrix with it. So like I will write rand 2 x power 2. So this symbol is like shift 6. So x power 2. It will give the square of the matrix. If I like simply want to raise power to each element of x, so I will write x dot power 2. So this will implement the operation on each element. The next thing is function call. Like in the previously we implemented the size. So the answer that we are getting here can be assigned to the variables. So like row, comma, column. Row, comma, column equal to size x. So row will get the value, not comma. So row will get the value of first, and the column will get the value second value. Let me change x to rand 2, comma 3. Sorry. So row gets 2 and column gets 3. Also, if we want to ignore a variable, so there is this tilde. So it is shift and the key across key neighborhood of 1. So tilde is like something we don't want to save. So tilde, comma, column. So tilde will ignore and column gets the value 3. This is like basic of MATLAB. So almost also like there are a lot of functions that we can talk about in the workshop. So for them, you can either Google them and you will get to the MATLAB uh, repository, or like you can simply in MATLAB saves all the documentation offline. So you can in the command window type doc the function. Let's search for size. So doc size. So it will open the documentation for size. Here it has told like what all arguments we can give, examples, and like there are a lot of options. So the next thing, like I will tell you briefly only. So there is this plot. So it can be used to plot a line function. I will tell you briefly about it, and you can read about it on yourself. So this is like let me start. So x equal to. So I told you like we might want to create uniform values. So I am using x equal to minus pi by 2 to pi by 2, and with a difference of 0.1. So in MATLAB we cannot, so like analog, it has infinite amount of information. So we cannot simulate analog data on MATLAB or anywhere. So we have to specify what accuracy that we want. So I am using here the difference of 0.1 to showcase that the accuracy between minus pi by 2 to pi by 2 that I want is 0.1. So if I do x y equal to cos of x, so we get the cos of x in y. If I do z equal to sine of x, z gets the sine of x. Now I have to plot it. So I have used this command plot x y x y then b dash dash o. So plot x y is basically first x then y. B means blue. Dash dash means the line that it will show. Here in the graph we can see the line that is lined. So that type, and O is showcasing the marker. So each point is represented with the circle. So that thing we are showing here. So this I implement. So I get a plot here. So hold on. Hold on is what it will do is it will wait for further plots to arrive. Then it will show the plot. like I put z equal to sine x also. Let me write plot xy. Then I write plot x z. Color, let's say R. Marker is O only. Dash line O. So we get both the plots in the same plot only. So we can see that the value of sine varies from -1 to +1, and the value of cos goes from 0 to 0 only. There are these other functions that we can add. So this x label, so it will add a label to x here in the bottom. There is this y label. So it will add a label label to the y-axis. There is this legend. So legend is basically the index. So it basically shows what all variables are we plotting in this graph. So this is also very useful in the MATLAB, as you can see here, cos and sine. So this is the last thing, logical array. So in MATLAB, logical array is basically either 1 or 0, like true false. So to perform logical operations, we can usually simply use greater than, less than, equal to, not equal to, tilde, equal to, or not equal to. So these outcome is represented by 1 as true and 0 as false. Let me write. So x is values from -π/2 to +π/2. So if I write x less than 0, so we can see the initial 16 values are 1 and the next 16 values are 0. So this is a logical array. Here in the answer variable, we can see the class is logical. So why we made a special class? Because this can be used to extract the specific values from x. So if I write x of x less than 0, so it will give me all the values that are less than 0 in x. So in Python, if I had to do this, so it would have been very big. Also, like if I want to like x equal to 0. So for all values that have x equal to 0 in x, we assign the value 1. So we can see the 17th element change to 1. It's not visible, so let me write x less than 0 to 1. So all the values change to 1 for x less than 0. There is this basic now, like if condition and loop. So we sometimes require to use an if else condition. So currently all the code that we wrote is run sequentially. So like first command and the next command. Sometimes we might want to skip some part of the code and simply go to the next part. So we start, checks the condition, and if it is true, then it executes the code, and if it's false, then it skips it and goes to the next part. So this is the basic syntax. Initial if condition, then some code, else if condition, then some code, else some code, then end. So there is one thing in MATLAB we don't have to worry about indentation. In C++, we don't have to worry about indentation. In Python, we have to worry about indentation. Let me execute this example. If 5, so this is like a basic example. So if 1 is less than 5, display 1 less than 5. Else if 1 is greater than 5, display 1 greater than 5. Else display 1 equal to 5. So this is like if, else, then end. So I put this code in Octave and press enter. So the output is 1 less than 5. So we can see the output. Because 1 is less than 5, this condition is true. We get 1 less than 5 displayed in as the output. The next thing is loop. So loop is if we want to execute something again and again. So that is called a loop. So in MATLAB, if we want to execute a loop, there is for, then the array. So for, then the vector. We like learned how to create a vector previously. So x 1 is to 5, 1 to 5. Then we press enter. Then we execute a command. So like let me say x plus 1. So it will like print x plus 1 every time. Then I write end. So like it's printing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it prints x plus 1 every time in a loop. So here is so basic is for, then a vector, then some commands, then end. So this is the end. So let me execute this example also that I showed here. So what is happening here is I am initializing z as an empty array. Then for 1 in 5, I am taking the previous z and adding x as a column in it. So let me show you for z equal to. So like here, let me do. So first z is empty, so I get 1. Then I add a previous z, then x. So 1. Then I stored this z in z. So the previous z is 1. Then I add 2 to it. And the previous z is again stored, and then I add 3 to it. So on. Finally, z gets all the values from 1 to 5. So these were the basics. So we can now discuss if you have any doubts while running this.
Bhaiya, please explain the syntax for loop again.
For loop is used to execute a command again and again. So here we can see for, then x equal to 1 is to 5. So like if I simply write x 1 to 5, I get a vector from 1 to 5. So then I write for x. So x will get all the values from 1 to 5. Then I put enter, then I print x, then I do end. So x here is all the commands that should be executed. Then I write end to end the loop. End the commands that we are writing. Then basically what will happen is for will take a value in this vector every time and execute the command. Then it will again take the next value and then execute the command until it reaches the end.
Okay, Bhaiya. Thank you.
by default, MATLAB uses short. So if I write format long, format is a command, then I write long. So all the calculations that I do from now on will be accurate up to 14 digits. So if I write x equal to ran2, like so then the accuracy increases. Then if I write format short, then I write x equal to ran2, the accuracy is less.
So that's it, guys. This is it for the workshop today. Hello, is my voice audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible. Yeah, so it seems like there are no more doubts. You people can leave the meeting.
Thank you, Bhaiya.